today's jargon term is autoimmune disorder. No, we're not talking about the Autobahn and driving crazily on the Autobahn, right? So let's take a look at what our actual definition is. Actual definition, autoimmune disorder. An autoimmune disorder occurs when the body's immune system attacks and destroys healthy body tissue by mistake. There are more than 80 types of autoimmune disorders. And I want to take just a second. We didn't want to convolute this too much and list all the different areas of the body that can be affected by autoimmune disorders, because it's basically head to toe, absolutely everything. It can be major organs. It could be your skin, it could be your kidneys, it can be absolutely anything. I think we tend to think of these things in the pocket that we understand, either because we have an autoimmune disorder or a loved one does, and it seems to strike in a specific place. But it really, end to end, it's pretty comprehensive, head to toe, attacking healthy tissue. So let's take a look at what our working definition is to try to consolidate this a little bit more. An autoimmune disorder, it's when an individual's immune system does not distinguish between healthy tissue and harmful substances, and therefore it sets off a reaction that destroys normal tissues. So when you stop and consider, think about somebody who's having an allergy attack, right? If you get something up your nose that's inappropriate, your body says, foreign substance, this is not okay, and you begin to sneeze. And the body is trying to eject it from your nose so that you don't inhale it and it doesn't harm you. It's a natural form of defense. We'll sneeze. Now, sometimes people are allergic to something where the body says, I'm identifying that substance as something that's a foreign and dangerous substance. And maybe it's innocuous to 9 out of 10 people, but to the person who's allergic to it, their body begins to sneeze and tries to, if they're smelling it, and tries to expel it. Well, sneezing is a pretty violent thing, and especially for those of you who've ever had an allergy attack that started with sneezing, it can be a very violent thing. And if you think about how violent the body works in that way to expel something, and transfer that to, say that there's something happening internally and the body is mounting its defenses to try to fight against it. Now, we want that when it's a flu. We want that when it's a disease. We want that kind of reaction from the body. But when the body is tricked into thinking that healthy tissue is a foreign substance or something that is toxic and begins to mount the battle to eject it, it can be something that's really devastating to somebody's health. And we're going to be talking about autoimmune a lot today, so I don't want to get too into it. But I think you're going to see why this is a conversation that we would have on Autism Live. I personally have an autoimmune disorder, and it's something that I struggle with every single day. And I don't think that I had any idea when things began to happen, and I think I always had leaned towards autoimmune disorder, but there was a period of time in my life when I had crossed the line and couldn't manage like I had been able to for so many years. I wondered why everybody was just so much more hale and hearty than I was. But I managed, I was able to do all the things that I wanted to do, even if maybe it was probably a little bit harder for me. And then a day came when the line was crossed and I couldn't do all the things that I wanted to do anymore. And it was kind of devastating for me in a big, big way. But I recall being at a conference, and there was a moment, I'd just been diagnosed and I was still kind of struggling with the reality of all of it. And there was a moment when I was interviewing a group of moms. We were standing in a circle and I'd finished the interview, and as I was turning off everything so that we were no longer recording, one of the moms was saying to the other one about, oh, well, but that's part and parcel of an autoimmune disorder. And my head kind of whipped around. I said, oh, you have an autoimmune disorder too. And she said, well, yes, I think probably everyone here does. This was an autism conference. And all of the women in the circle, they were like, oh yeah, no, I do. Yeah, no, I have one. Everyone, all of the women in the circle. And it just sort of rang a bell in my head. And someone said, oh, well, the next thing at the conference, there's a doctor that's doing a talk on the immune regulation and autism. You probably want to come with us. And I thought, well, gosh, I think I will go in. And a lot of it was over my head. I'll be honest with you. I don't have a head for science. I want it stripped down, which is why we do Jargon of the Day. But in any case, at one point they said, we just want to stop for a second and ask. There were a lot of moms and a few dads in the room, and they said, we want to ask how many of you have been diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder that have a child who's on the autism spectrum. And a sea of hands went up. I would say 98% of the hands in the room went up. And that certainly got my attention. Certainly got my attention. And for the rest of the day, as I was interviewing people, when the interview was over, I said to them, I'm just curious, do you have an autoimmune disorder? And I think there was one woman the entire day who did not have an autoimmune disorder. So we're going to be talking about this today, and I've brought you a very wonderful guest who's going to be able to speak to this very eloquently. So autoimmune disorder, this is why we're talking about it on an autism show. It's very prevalent in the moms, and we're finding it's turning out to be very prevalent among our children as well.